get Honorable Abike Dabiri-Erewa, Chairman House Committee on Diaspora Affairs. Morning, thank you for joining us today. Well, yes, you did move a motion on the floor of the House yesterday about this same matter. Why did you think that there was a need to move that motion? Because the minister there speaking about the kind of approach that they think Nigeria should adopt.
Well, thank you very much and good morning. Oh, of course, absolutely. It was important for the House to move that motion. I mean, what we said is that we have to be more decisive, and the House has called on the federal government to recall the ambassador for some consultations. Now, we should all have seen this coming. Maybe not this magnitude, but the level of hostility towards blacks in South Africa, from blacks in South Africa, has been gradually on the increase. This is not the first time that they'll be killing people on the streets, but this is the first time it's taking this turn, perhaps because of the statement by the Zulu King, which was reiterated by the son of the president himself, Edward Zuma. Once you get to South Africa, right from the immigration point into town, they speak their language to you as a black person. They realize you don't speak the language, then they term you query, which they want to use a derogatory remark for blacks, words that are being called a nigger. So this hostility has been brewing, and so we should all have seen it coming. And we feel as a parliament, we can't continue to treat the issues with South Africa with kids' gloves. Before you know it, this will die down again, and then it will happen again. So we are saying, let the ambassador come home for some consultations, more briefing, and let's understand what's going on. And then secondly, President Zuma must categorically put an end to this killing. He was in Parliament yesterday, and you could see that the parliamentarians didn't quite take it lightly with him either. And then the African Union has to intervene. This is something that has been going on, and it just might continue to get worse. Because if you notice the protest march in South Africa yesterday, you still had some of them come to the streets and say, you know what, go home. So really, there should be a long-term solution to this issue, because it's not going to go away if we treat it with kids' gloves.
All right, if the ambassador comes back home for some consultation, as you put it, it may send a message out there that, look, we're not missing words about this one. Yes, they could even interpret it as though we're recalling an ambassador. Do we have any problems with that kind of interpretation or perception that they may get from that action if and when we do take it?
We're talking of people being killed. You saw them in front of policemen. The policemen were actually watching, somebody being burnt on the streets. And the attitude of the South African government has been sort of lukewarm. We're dealing with human lives here. And like I said, this is not the first time. We've seen it coming. So really, we cannot treat it as lightly as we have been doing. So really, that should be a first step. And then don't forget that even before now, Nigerian businesses have actually been discriminated against in South Africa. There's a Nigerian, I think it's Oliver Joe. His restaurant was vandalized in front of policemen. They just got there, vandalized his restaurant, ate his food, beat him and his staff up, and nothing happened. So you see, we say we're the giant of Africa, but we can't be a giant with a feet of clay. We need to put our feet down and make a strong statement, about what is going on in South Africa. It's not acceptable. And when you just say, we'll watch and wait and see, the parliament does not think that is right. And on our own, we intend to, visit South Africa and make some statement there if the federal government is not doing anything. So really, like I said, this has been long time coming. We were in South African prison some time ago, the Committee on Diaspora, and you need to see how even in prison, Nigerians are treated. Even in prison, they are very much discriminated against. And little things that others will get away with, they don't get away with it. So really, and when you look at Nigerian business, for instance, in South Africa, Oando, Dangote are listed on the stock exchange, but they don't allow patronage. Zenith Bank, Union Bank have tried to set up there, they've refused. But their businesses are thriving in Nigeria unhindered. DSTV, MTN, ShopRite. So there's an imbalance in what is happening here, and I don't see why Nigeria is not more decisive. And as we said on the floor yesterday, the principle of reciprocity really must apply in the case of South Africa. We can't continue this way.
Well, even though we know it's really un-African and inhuman what we're saying, what do you think went wrong in all of these relations with South Africa?
Well, it's been ongoing. And then the statement, when the king comes on television and says, you migrants, go back to your homes. We don't want you here. And then the son of the president reiterates it. It turned to a debate in South Africa, a serious debate, and then it was like, oh, we didn't say it, this is not what it meant, but it was a little bit too late. The damage had been done, because they say it actually. And like I said, we've intervened several times in cases of maltreatment of Nigerians in South Africa. This is not the first time, but this is the first time it has been up to this magnitude. So it's been on, and that's why we're saying that African Union must step in. It's un-African. It's not right. It's just not right. And I think the South Africans need to embark on awareness campaigns for their people to understand where they're coming from. I heard somebody say there in South Africa that what role did they play in our liberation? They should know that we did play a lot of role, a huge role in their liberation, and understand that really we're brothers and we need one another. So really, it's a major problem that we're sweeping under the carpet. And if something is not decisively done now, especially by the African Union, not just Nigeria, it will continue to happen. And you're just going to have pockets of, he killed this one there, another person shot dead there and all that, and it will go on, which is bad for Africa. Nigeria and South Africa should be at the forefront of progress and development for Africa. And I think, you see, at the government level, there's no problem. But at the lower level, there is a big problem. So there should be huge awareness campaigns and programs and understanding of where we're coming from and where we're going to.
Some people will say that, yes, at the level of government, there's so much that can be done in the sense that, okay, you can say, well, we're calling our ambassador, we're deepening discussions, so let's have this conversation. But at the level of the ordinary citizens, how are we having this conversation with Nigerian citizens living in South Africa?
You know, as a Committee on Diaspora, we have actually had that conversation for quite some time, and we were successful. And you find that, yes, you do have some Nigerians committing crime, but we say crime in any way should not be tolerated. But we have very, very strong Nigerian diaspora associations that actually work together in South Africa. The various groups, ethnic groups together, you know, they work together in South Africa. And I'll tell you that to a large extent, you don't fight Nigerians, you know, like this particular incident, Nigerians defended themselves. They moved away from the streets. They closed their shops and businesses. And, you know, they stayed quiet, which may not have happened before, and said, you know what, we have to defend ourselves. So at that level, as a committee, we've been having engagements with Nigerians in South Africa, and it has succeeded a lot. But I think the engagement should be more with South Africans themselves, because they are the ones saying, you know what, they are taking our jobs. But you see, those jobs they are talking about, they are not even doing them. They don't want to do those jobs. So that is where the engagement should occur, at that level of the average black, I would say low-level income South African. We need to understand better and have a better engagement of their history and all that. So it actually is more of South Africans educating their people, not about Nigerians being educated, because I think the average Nigerian understands exactly what is going on. And to a large extent, Nigerians have behaved themselves well in South Africa. There are cases of drugs and all that, and we say if you're caught for drugs, that is your problem. But there are many Nigerians who are doing their businesses and are thriving in South Africa, and really they are doing well. So really it's at the level of the South African, at that level that should be educated. Of course, we know that we have the issue of Nigerians leaving their country in droves, you know. South Africa, even smaller countries, you have Nigerians living in droves. In Switzerland, we have the highest number of asylum seekers, you know, are Nigerians. So we have a problem of endemic, systemic leadership failure in Nigeria. And hopefully, as we move to another regime, all that will change. We need to have confidence in our nation. And as we in the Committee on Diaspora have said from time to time, it's a shame that actually Nigerians are going to different parts of the world and getting shabby treatment. You know, we have to fix our country, and Nigerians should stay home and be part of fixing that country. So gradually, as leadership gets better in Nigeria and confidence in the economy and all that improves, I believe more Nigerians will stay home and stop going about being embarrassed in some other parts. You cannot stop migration, whether legal or illegal. But illegal migration can be curbed. And Nigeria, as the giant of Africa, must not be a giant with the feet of clay.